More than usual.
More than usual, yeah.
Uh,
Just seeing flashing lights now. I think I'm having a stroke.
Maybe. Either that or the cops are coming for you.
Fuck. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Monkey in the Morning. I am your host, the Ranting Monkey. He's Jack. Say hello, Jack.
Hi, everybody. And you dropped an F-bomb within the first 10 seconds, so this
It's
is
okay. As long as you don't do more than 2 of them within the first 30, you're usually all right.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a weird algorithm they have. I love the thought that they went through the trouble to make an algorithm that catches whether or not you say certain dirty words more than once in the first 30 seconds.
So sad.
They spent time on that. They had engineers sit down and program something to look for that. Sure, why not? Jack, how the hell you been, man?
I don't know. I've been so busy. So, yeah, we're trying to get all this stuff sorted and getting ready for probate court and all this other bullshit. We had to talk to a lawyer today.
Oh.
And the funeral, the guy that runs the funeral home has been really cool. He's going to let us pay in installments. So, because he's like, yeah, 2 dead bodies do add up.
They really do, yeah.
So he was really cool about it when we talked to him and explained the situation. I don't think his wife didn't quite get it. So he was really cool, though.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's his business and she helps him with it, I just in my own experience with couples that are like that, the women tend to be, how do I want to say this? More financially focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is ironic since they're supposed to be the caring ones.
Coast to coast, not Monkey in the Mornings. I mean, it's more of a conspiracy themed show tonight. Hey, you're getting ahead of me. The ghost of Art Bell approves of this stream. Well, the truth is, guys, I've been in a lot of pain, and I haven't done much at all. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I've barely even been over there, Jack. I've mostly been watching, and this is 100% true, Ancient Aliens.
Nice.
I've been spending my time. Darth Mondo, thank you so much for becoming a member for month number 14. Here for a long time, but a good time. We'll watch this tomorrow. Don't say anything to get it removed before then. Well, Darth, just in case I do, you'll be able to find it on Rumble. Hi, Nuts. How you doing, sweetheart? Yeah, lots of pain, but happy, Jack. So let's move on with the show, shall we? I really don't have a lot to talk about. I know we have the Pete Hegseth and whoever that blonde chick is. They have the beginning of their confirmation hearings today.
Yeah.
Which should provide great content for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't help a lot today. My Chargers got knocked out of the playoffs, so I don't even have football to talk about.
Oh, I'm so surprised to hear that news.
I was shocked as a lifelong Charger fan that the Chargers won't be going to the Super Bowl. Chiefs. Yeah, Pat Bondi. She's the chick. What is she for? AG, I think it is. That'll be going on today. Imagine we'll get lots of fireworks out of that, Jack. You got quiet right as I blew my nose. I really should have checked and made sure you were unmuted.
I was coughing.
Welcome to the Old Guys Are Sick show.
Yeah. Well, my sinuses are acting up too, but I tried to swallow some Coca-Cola down the breathing hole a few minutes before we got on the stream, so I just started that shit.
Oh, wow. Donald Camp, thanks so much for that feminist $12. Said I turned off Heartbreak Ridge for the show. Let's have fun. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Donald.
How far into Heartbreak Ridge were you? Because once they get to the whatever unnamed island they storm, you can turn it off. You only watch it through basic, or through the training. It's not really basic training. it's him training them how they should have been trained all along. The recon squad there. I love Heartbreak Ridge, one of my favorite movies. But the last 30 minutes was unnecessary. Just saying.
I had that same problem with Full Metal Jacket.
I feel the same way about Stripes. You can cut off the last half of Stripes and it doesn't matter anymore. Because when they get in the Winnebago, you've seen Stripes, right?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
The first half is them in basic training, and then the last half is them in a high-tech RV that they're taking the girls out in, and they end up in a commie country, and they got to sneak back home. And yeah, it's just stupid after that. Anyhow, yeah, we will be talking about aliens and stuff, Jack. I actually kind of blame you for my rabbit hole I went down. Because I saw a video pop up in my recommended about UFOs, and I went, yeah, I'll watch this.
I apologize for nothing.
And you shouldn't either, because I said blame. I should say credit you for this. And I watched a whole bunch of conspiracy videos, and I was like, you know what I haven't looked at in a long time? Ancient aliens.
It's fun every time, too. Let me grab a couple of Streamlabs here.
Sure.
2 days ago, thank you, Dixie Rose, for that generous donation. Could get Patreon to work, so I had to go this route. Hope this helps with your expenses. Hang in there, kiddo. Thank you very much. It did help quite a bit. It's why I still have gas. Not the Taco Bell kind, but like the heat kind. And thank you, Plaid and Ammo. I'm not going to read that as you stated, but thank you. I appreciate it, man. It was generous.
My funeral went well because they didn't have the body on display. She'd already been cremated, which I didn't realize how much I needed that in my life until we got there. But got to see lots of old friends I hadn't seen in a while. Horrible way to see old friends. We as humans really should make more effort contact each other when it's not a horrible tragedy.
We used to do that. That's one of the benefits of the church.
Right.
Say what you will about religion, but you used to have social events where the people would come together and spend time together. Now we don't do any of that. People don't even go to church anymore.
All right, I want to talk about something stupid, Jack.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I'm getting real sick and tired of seeing conservatives putting that fucking Muslim pimp, lying defrauder Andrew Tate on their programs.
Oh.
And that dumbass Benny Johnson, he decided to do it the other day.
Yeah.
And I made fun of him for it, just for having him on there. And I hadn't seen any of it. And I thought, it might be fun watching it live on the show. And then I watched his introduction of Tate, and I was like, there's no fucking way I can watch this whole thing. No fucking way. I'll break something. Because this is his introduction to Andrew Tate coming on his show.
Ladies and gentlemen, something I've been excited to say on this program, well, since really the inception of the program.
He's about to announce Andrew Tate's going to be on the show, and it's something he's been excited to say since he started his program, Jack.
Uh-huh.
Which he's been doing for many years, which goes back to when Andrew Tate was proudly bragging on the internet about the crimes he now says he never did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you wanted to have the guy who was bragging about ripping off men. All right. I mean, we all have life goals, I guess. That's a stupid one. Kind of makes you a dumb cunt, if you ask me, but who am I to judge? But he's not done yet, Jack. He's going to explain why.
And someone who I think will deliver absolute profound takes.
Yeah, because Andrew's known for his profound takes. Like, if you have a choice between sleeping with a guy who looks like a pretty woman or an actual woman who's ugly, you should put it in the dude's butt. Or in Andrew's case, take it up the butt from the dude.
Yeah.
That is deeply profound.
Very profound. Let's not forget how he's breaking out of the Matrix.
Yeah. His whole spiel is just shit he stole from other things and in pop culture.
Yeah.
He's got the Matrix and he read a pimping book from the 70s. That's it.
He probably owns the 48 Laws of Power.
Was that pretty woman walking down the street? No, remember, it's an ugly woman. It's a pretty man. And yes, that is absolutely something Andrew Tate said on video.
On what is happening right now, because he himself has been the victim of state-sponsored incarceration.
For actual crimes that he's admitted to on air multiple times.
Repeatedly said the same things over and over again. Bragged about it, Jack.
Yeah, bragged about pimping chicks out.
And not just pimping them out. If you do the math on the one girl that he was talking about, he's bragged about sleeping with an underage girl as well.
Yeah. Talking about how he sleeps with women, gets them to fall in love with them, and then turns them into cam girls.
Mm-hmm.
What's known as the lover boy method.
Yeah, and now he like it was just for videos on the TikTok. Erasing everything else he's ever said, like that never happened. And remember when he went on with Candace Owens and she's like, you never did anything wrong. You made this one video. And that's all she could find. And then she did a whole video attacking a young girl who's been actually raped, and there's a man in jail for that, and defending the guy who's in prison for it. I do not understand how conservatives embrace Andrew Tate.
I have no idea.
The same people are perfectly willing to take Biden at his word that he extorted Ukraine can't take Andrew Tate at his word that he's a dirty fucking sex trafficker.
Nope.
Who used to talk dirty to men to steal money from them.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to degrade the kind of guys that would sign up for his masculinity classes.
Yeah.
And take their money by posing as a woman on chats and talking dirty to them and leading them on. That's disgusting.
Thank you, Circus Zero, who says ramen money. I appreciate it. I could use some ramen right now. I haven't had it in a couple of days.
I just bought some the other day. Real quick. Thank you, Circus Zero, for the generous donation. Sent you a DM on X after the show. Okay, cool. Thanks, man. I'll check it out. And thank you to Scroll Technician for that very generous tip. Very, very generous. I'm very sorry to hear about your parents. I lost my father 2 years ago, and it still hurts. I know money doesn't ease the pain, but hopefully this will ease some of the financial strain that you're dealing with. Yes, it very much will. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, I didn't realize, like, when my brother died, we had a lot of this stuff already kind of sorted out, and we really just had to pay for, like, a few legal expenses.
Sure.
And for his funeral costs. He didn't want a memorial or anything. I didn't realize how expensive, like, headstones are.
Oh, God, yeah.
Have you priced those things lately? Holy Jeebus. And, like, the cemetery plots, my parents were totally not prepared for any of that stuff. Because, you know, they were pretty poor people. They were barely middle class.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, bud.
Oh, no, just the legal shenanigans we've had to go through and all the expenses. It's fucking insane. It's overpriced to die. And Dad always said, just put me in a cardboard box in the backyard. And right now, that looked like a good option.
Yeah, unfortunately, they won't let you do that in most places.
No, otherwise he'd be on trail cam all the time.
No, my dad died. His brothers, as a gift to the family, took care of all of that.
Wow.
Because, nobody was prepared. My dad wasn't even sick, man. So, I don't know how we would have paid for it.
Yeah, I tell you, this chat has been amazing. You guys are awesome. Thank you, guys. I cannot thank you enough for all the support you've given me through this, through my brother's death, through my parents' death. So, it's been a rough couple of years. I'm not gonna lie, but you guys have really actually given me a little bit of hope for humanity, because I'm a pretty nihilistic person. But
I'm telling you, you got to be an optimist.
No, see, I'm a cynic because that optimism always gets crushed. But the generosity these guys have shown is just unbelievable. So thank you, Disgruntled Technician and Circuit, everybody else. It's really been a help.
All right, back to dipshit here. I don't watch Benny Johnson. I don't know a lot about the guy. But the more I'm exposed to him, the more I'm like, oh, he's one of those. He's Tim Pool, but without the beanie.
Yeah, with gay hair.
Somebody asked, posing as a woman like Bugs Bunny. No. He's talked about this many times. What he would do is he'd have his cam girls on pretending to have a keyboard that's hooked up to something, and all the actual dirty chat, talking about sucking wiener and taking it real hard. That was his words.
Yeah, he was typing on a different keyboard that was actually hooked up to the computer.
Yeah. So he was talking about how much he wanted that big old wiener in him because it's something he likes.
Lawfare and abuses of justice for political reasons has had his free speech.
Abuses of justice for political reasons. Okay, I realize you're trying to make the connection to Donald Trump here, but just once again, I have to remind the audience, Andrew Tate has literally admitted to everything he's been accused of. It's on video. He scrubbed most of it from his internet, but you can find tons of videos where they go over it. He wasn't abused by the system. He just got away with it for a long time.
Silenced and limited, has had his freedom of...
I will say that Andrew Tate was silenced and limited on social media. That part is true. Benny's got 1 out of 3 so far.
Look, Andrew Tate has said some things I agree with. That doesn't make him a good person just because he says a few things you agree with.
I got in an argument with a moron the other day over this fucking retard. And he's like, you're just a hater. Can't you see all the good that he's done? And it makes me wonder, where is your line of it's okay to be this much of a douchebag if you've done this much good? I mean, literally sleeping with underage girls, but hey, he once gave somebody $1. I guess that makes him a good person. Thank you, Dark Resurrect, for becoming a member for month number 8. Howdy, Monk and Jack. What stupidity are we looking at now? This is Benny Johnson, big on the internet for being a conservative person, who is cupping the balls of Andrew Tate right now. Because much like Andrew, this dude likes the taste of wiener, apparently.
He likes money and attention. This is all clout chasing. Hi, Dark, by the way. Ben Shapiro did a 20-minute diatribe about this where he was close to right on a few things.
I don't understand why conservatives are embracing this guy.
I don't either, especially with all the accusations and things he's admitted to.
Yeah.
Like, they do zero research. They're just trying to attract his audience before the dude goes to jail or something.
And they keep comparing him to Trump, and it's not even close to the same.
No.
Had his free speech silenced and limited, has had his freedom of movement and thought silenced and limited, and has fought.
His freedom of movement has been limited because he's under indictment.
Yeah. He's violated several EU laws by his own admission and Romanian laws. He appears to have some mob connections too, by his own admission.
But yeah.
And of course they're going to restrict his movement, but his thought?
Yeah,
I don't know about how they did that.
Maybe it's when they put him in jail and his hair half grew back and it made him only think about how ridiculous he looked.
How he looks chinless.
Fought through at every measure and is now on the precipice of victory and looking at potentially running himself for office.
On the precipice of victory, we must have been looking at different court rulings.
Yeah, he is not doing well in the Romanian courts.
No.
It's looking pretty bad for him, actually.
The only place he's doing well is in the eyes of dumbass conservatives who are like, I read what Andrew Tate said, and that must be true.
No, so what they're doing is they're listening to a sycophants like Candace Owens, whose husband is friends with Tate, and who's dressing it all up and dismissing the allegations against him without any kind of research into it, without showing any clips of him admitting to doing what he's accused of. So eventually enough of these puff pieces get out there, and they don't bother to do any real research on anything he's actually on video saying.
Yeah. Retro, thank you for becoming a member for month number 19. Says, hey, Monk, I sent you an article on X with the confirmation hearing schedules in it. Thought it'd be handy for a C-SPAN junkie like you. Yeah, I don't think I will be watching all of the confirmation hearings. I'll probably miss tomorrow, and I know I'm going to miss Thursday because I have stuff to do. But yeah, thank you. I will definitely take a look because there are certain ones I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the ones tomorrow. I'm looking forward to when Kash Patel gets up there because that should be funny as shit.
Oh man, I really hope Kash Patel gets through. A lot of rhinos aren't going to like that dude. Real quick though, thank you Donald Camp over on the Cash App for the feminist donation. Is this for sup, Jack? Appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
Thank you, Logical Mail. By the way, this is the same Benny Johnson who took Russian money to work for Tenet Media, sponsored by Lauren Chen. And in fairness to that, I mean, I saw somebody talking about, it wasn't Benny, it was one of the other ones. They're like, they took the Russian money, and like, they didn't know they were taking Russian money. And there's no, I get what you're saying. It is true, but it's not really a fair criticism of him. Just saying. Don't make me defend this douchebag.
What is going on? Oh, sorry. What'd you say?
I said, don't make me defend this douchebag.
Yeah, he's got kind of gay hair. Do we know what's going on with Lauren anyway? Because we haven't seen or heard of much of her.
Last I heard, she was fighting. She did eventually testify, but she refused to answer questions the whole time.
That's probably a smart play.
Probably. Anyway,
we're going to ask all of these things of Andrew Tate, who joined.
Not going to ask him anything relevant about all the crimes and stuff he's committed. By the way, Andrew comes up there standing at a podium like Zelensky.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I just watched that fucking ball-licking introduction. I'm like, I can't even watch this.
Yeah, because you know it's going to be a softball, cup his nuts, and work the shaft kind of interview. They're not going to talk about any of the actual allegations against him that he's admitted to. They're not going to show any clips and say, what did you mean by this? This seems to fit the allegations against you. None of that. There's no tough interviews here because they all want Tate's audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they care about.
Well,
it's sick clout chasing.
I would give you that if they weren't trying to draw the parallels to Trump, because I think these idiots really aren't looking any deeper than I'm hearing he's oppressed.
Yeah, sadly, that's probably true.
I mean, if you go back and watch the one with Candace Owens, she literally just repeats what Tate was putting out on Twitter at the time. No independent investigation at all into it.
No. But again, her husband is friends with Tate.
And that's fair. But what about Tucker? He was talking to him 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks before, right?
I lost a lot of respect for Tucker on that interview.
Yeah. There's not even really crimes in here. Like, then you didn't fucking read it.
Yeah, you didn't read it. You didn't do any kind of research at all on this man.
Yeah. Nuts. Thank you so much, sweetie, for becoming a member for month number 19. I don't understand the women fawning over Tate. He's a creep. When it comes to people, men or women, fawning over, let's call them objectively horrible people, I'm never surprised, honestly.
Yeah, well, look at like people like Ted Bundy, a known serial killer, had a lot of female fans. Maybe it's the unibrow. I don't know. Some chicks just like evil people.
And then picked up more when they did the Netflix documentary on him.
Yeah.
So this is years and years later, people just finding out about him, and all they know about him is that he's a fucking serial rapist and murderer.
Yeah.
Like, he's so dreamy.
I will never understand that. That is a level of fucked up that goes almost beyond the SJWs. Real quick though, thank you, Evolved Potato. Andrew Tate running for office. He'd have to do that in England, but after the Romanian crimes, he's also going to be charged with crimes in England. Yeah, but he's hoping to get out of them because sex offenses aren't really frowned upon in the UK.
Well, not from certain demographics that Tate is part of. And of course, I mean, Asians.
He's half Asian, and he worships at the shrine of the warlord. So
I just wanted to put this on because it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. I got a DM today, Jack. And this is literally all it says. You paid for Twitter. You're a fucking bitch. Bullshit lawfare, bro. You're like 30 and have no life. I wish I was 30. Fucking loser.
Yeah, 30 was fun.
Fucking loser ass bitch LMFAO. And then it tells me I can't respond to the person any longer.
Because he blocked you like a coward?
Yes. I was like, you win, I guess.
What's the term for that? Bitch and run?
Bitch and run. It just made me laugh because, like, okay.
Yeah, what a bitch. That is just pathetic to do.
I hope it made him happy. I really do. I hope that he spent the rest of the day patting himself on the back for telling a stranger on the internet that they are a 30-year-old bitch.
Oh yeah, he got up from his table and got himself an extra latte with cream.
He got the big cream juice box.
Yeah. Right, look at me. I am so awesome. I'm getting a lemon square because I'm so badass.
Any stories you want to cover before we go down the rabbit hole of aliens?
No. I'm kind of intrigued to see where you want to go with the aliens. Well, I did see a little bit. I went down a rabbit hole too, but not a very long one. Have you ever heard of the Actorbahn?
No.
It's the secret underground roadways that actors can use in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know what Metro 2 is in Russia?
No.
Okay. Supposedly in the 80s, during the height of the Cold War, they built a secret metro system that would get the prime minister and the president moving around. So if they had to escape the Kremlin in Moscow, it was a secret system for moving them around by like a private subway setup.
Gotcha. I said gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, it's not proven to exist, but there's some schematics that have allegedly leaked out. It's a really interesting one. It inspired that video game Metro, because that's supposedly where everybody's living, is in the Metro, Metro 2. Well, it's a great conspiracy theory. There's a similar one about DC, but we actually know they have some underground tunnels and rails for them. But it appears that they took the Metro 2 and moved it over to Los Angeles, and now it's just a secret underground roadway. That's how, like, Jerry Seinfeld could get to Dodger Stadium without being noticed. You don't see him on the I-5 or the Pacific Coast Highway, do you? No, because they got a secret roadway. And there's also like secret restaurants and Starbucks down there. They don't pay. They just show up and get stuff. And I was like, this is lazy. The Metro 2 at least sounded cool. Like it had Russians and, so it's supposed to be like haunted and have like, I don't know, giant bears or something down there. So underground abandoned subways with experiments that have gone wrong. Sounds awesome. Actors driving underground in Los Angeles. I'm just like, let the earthquake take care of this.
It seems like that would be a bad place to have underground tunnels. And I know that Elon was trying to make the one from like LA to Las Vegas. There's a reason you don't dig tunnels really close to a fucking fault line.
Yeah. Plus, there are already like underground pockets where, of course, you have underground like steam tunnels where they're running fiber optics and sewer lines, that sort of thing. You have all kinds of places where you have underground tunnels. But Los Angeles tried to build a subway at one point and it didn't work. So it's mostly like hidden speakeasies and stuff like that. Secret tunnels for escaping prohibition. There's no really cool tunnels like that. Sorry, guys. You can't drive your Lamborghini in the secret actor bond.
What? How many millions of people live in LA?
It's a good question. Quite a few.
Yeah, you probably don't see Steve Johnson very often either, and it's not because he doesn't have or it's because he has a underground tunnels. Because there's millions of people living there, and unless you're in the same building, you're probably not going to run into them very often.
Yeah, 3.8 million people just in Los Angeles. So, plus they have drivers and tinted windows. So
no, it's a secret tunnel system.
Yeah. Good luck explaining Paul Walker's death.
Right? Dangerous. Thank you. You guys are misunderstanding. They are restricting Tate's freedom of thought. Oh, THOT. Gotcha.
Oh.
Also, are you sure Jack isn't thinking about the stonecutters from The Simpsons?
No, the stonecutters were based off the Freemasons, and that would they did have some cool conspiracy stuff in there too, but yeah.
FL, thank you. Unfortunately, conservatives online have a nasty tendency to declare victory way too soon, like Robbie Starbuck bragging about beating DEI. Well, DEI probably has been beaten. The concept behind DEI has not, and that's what they always forget.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just affirmative action. It's literally all it is.
It's communism dressed up with different veneers.
Yep.
So it's going to be a long time before that is ever destroyed, if ever.
But let's talk about some more fun stuff. On your screen right now is the famous guy from the It's Totally Aliens meme.
Giorgio Tsoukalos.
I can never say his last name. I watched him say it about 30 times recently. But I can pronounce Giorgio. So this is Giorgio, and I did enjoy the show, Jack, but there were several times, like, I don't remember if this is the Nazca lines. There's one with the Roswell Stone. Do you know what the Roswell Stone is?
Not off the top of my head.
It's
memory is not what it used to be.
It's this rock that this guy supposedly found while deer hunting. It's a little bit, maybe about the size of a $quarter, or no, a $50, not a $quarter, about a 50-cent piece.
Okay.
But it's in a weird kind of shape, and on one side of it there is symbols that have been cut into it, and it's got some weird magnetic properties where if you hold another magnet to it, you can make it spin, because it's a rock and it's rounded, and if you push an opposite magnet, the opposite magnet field, it'll make it spin.
Did a weird German guy with really thin glasses try and take it out of a fire, burned it into his palm?
Yes, and then he got the staff size wrong.
Oh yeah, because he didn't have the other side. Okay, I'm with you.
You know the best part about that scene in Indiana Jones is none of that makes any sense unless you do it on the exact right day.
Yeah. Well, they did specify that in there. They did talk about it had to be on a specific day.
You would think that anybody with the knowledge of, they only got one half of it and it didn't tell them when. You should still understand how the sun works. We'll get back to the sun later. Look, it's a movie and it was fun, so I don't mind. But that scene always has driven me nuts. I
imagine you'd probably just like climb down and see where it already burned in the hole where he had done it.
I guess
either that or they got a flashlight and simulated it.
They were digging first because they'd already redone it, right? Or they'd taken the burn marks off of his hand to know how to do it.
I don't know. I don't understand Nazis very well.
Me neither. But anyway, so here's how my journey went the other day, Jack.
Oh, yeah. Journey into mystery.
I'm watching this video, and it was about the congressional hearings and stuff. Where it came out, there's some weird shit that we can't explain.
No, duh.
And in this context, specifically with what do they call them now? UAVs or
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah, UFO sounds way better and it flows easier.
I miss the old flying saucer, honestly.
Right?
Because it sounded cooler.
Yeah.
But I'm still not willing to say there's aliens, Jack.
I am. Statistically, it's just probable that they're out there.
There's aliens out there. I'm not willing to say aliens have come to Earth. How about that?
Oh, that's fair.
So I'm still not willing to say that, but...
Well, are you willing to accept transdimensional beings?
No, not yet. When they start getting into like interdimensional doorways and shit, that's where I'm like, yeah, you guys have gone a little too far for me.
You're so interdimensionalist.
UAP covers air and watercraft. Yeah, because the A is not actually aerial. It's I heard it the other day. It's unidentified awesome photographs or something like that.
Because it was aerial. I don't know.
Yeah, and aerial makes more sense because it was the replacement for UFO, flying objects.
Oh, it's unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
Anonymous. That's what it is. Anomalous.
Yeah.
Anomalous phenomenon.
It's unidentified anonymous. It's just a flying Guy Fawkes mask everywhere.
Yes. But the only reason we know about any of this shit is because somebody snuck the information out and it got to the point where the Pentagon finally had to go, all right, fuck it. Yeah, there's stuff we can't identify. And
which was actually a pretty shocking revelation. Too bad we had a bunch of other scandals going on at the time.
And even with that, you still had the entirety of the media going, but it's totally not aliens, okay?
Yeah.
It's just weather balloons. Do you know when the Roswell crash happened, the first headlines about it was that a flying saucer had landed or had crash landed?
Yeah, that was what the military said.
Yeah.
And then they retracted it a few hours later.
To call it a fucking weather balloon.
Yep.
So
there's a bit of a difference. I'm pretty sure the average military guy could be like, that's a balloon.
How do you confuse a flying saucer, a metal disc-shaped object, with a weather balloon?
Yeah, because weather balloons at the time were made like of balsa wood and tin foil and a balloon.
A balloon.
A non-metallic balloon. So,
I will say, one of the episodes I was watching earlier tonight, Jack. The Pentagon does have, or not Pentagon, NASA has a, I don't want to say it's a form, it's a directive kind of thing, where when they're first sending people into space, they actually told them, look, guys, there's a chance you could find aliens up there.
Well, so many astronauts have said they've seen weird things.
Well, the directive was don't say shit because you could literally destroy humanity giving that kind of information.
Yeah, and that's silly.
Is it?
Oh, I mean, where's the
think
of how fun it would be because we could all be Captain Kirk. What's up, space alien?
And I hear you, and on that, I'm with you because you know what? We'll get into that later. I do think, especially with how many people tell me that the only reason morality exists is religion, that if religion was shattered by the idea of aliens, I'm worried for what those kind of people would do.
I think that if your religion is shattered by aliens, your faith wasn't very strong to begin with.
And it doesn't necessarily shatter most religions. It just, it's like Christianity. God created the heavens and the earth. Just because he didn't describe what happened in the rest of the heavens doesn't mean he didn't put people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
those are just new people to send missionaries to. And the Hindus are going to be like, we've been telling you this for 5,000 years.
So I do think that there is the possibilities for some severe chaos in the world if that kind of information came out.
I definitely think there would be people that freaked out because it would shatter their really restricted worldview. Because they're not very open-minded about these sort of things.
You need to check your slabs, bud.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for you to...
Oh, go ahead then. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Dark Resurrect, for that feminist donation. So I just found out that a bunch of people are moving out to a Chinese government-run app that's similar to TikTok due to a potential ban. Literally saying, oh, if the U.S. says China can't steal our data, we'll just willingly give it to them. What the fuck? Dude, I don't know. I don't think they're going to ban TikTok. I think some Americans could end up buying it and probably running it. But they're running over to, what is it, Red State or something like that? I don't get it, man. I don't get why. Well, probably because they're a bunch of communists. So there's that.
Revelation of aliens would shatter the worldview of flat earthers. They think space is fake after all. No, they just say it was fake.
No, they're from the other side of the ice wall.
Like the Marklar in South Park. Indeed, yes.
Yeah, no, my fear
Darwin
is,
Marvin.
I read this short story in college. I forget the name of it was. But these aliens come to Earth in these giant ships. And only a handful of them ever come down to Earth and are fascinated by everything. They're asking us how we do stuff, and they're just observing. They have a few technological things, but then they leave. And it turns out they were just stealing all of our technology and copying it because those giant ships were run on vacuum tubes. And their entire population came down to Earth. It was just a few hundred people, and they knew a few things we didn't, but they were just techno thieves, stealing whatever they could from us that was more advanced and replacing it on their ship. And then when they were done, they left.
Captain
That's
Kirk's...
what's going to happen. We're going to get fucking trailer park aliens trying to steal our shit and probe our butts.
Captain Kirk's toupee, thank you. Hey, my Canadian dollars are like Monopoly money, maple syrup pesos. Thanks, Monk and Jack, for all your time and love. You are welcome, and thank you for the donation and for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The app's called Red Note. Thank you, sir. I had never heard of that one.
Look, if you guys aren't using TikTok because they can get your information, you probably shouldn't be on Twitter or on YouTube or Rumble or any other social media. You should throw your phone in the garbage disposal and turn it on.
Yeah.
and all of the other problems with TikTok. I mean, tell me they don't exist everywhere on social media.
Yeah, what's the difference between the Chinese stealing all your data and Meta doing it?
Yeah. That Meta's the middleman, then they can sell it to China. I mean, totally not. They'll sell it to a third party who will sell it to China.
Yeah, who will just hand it over to China.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to our aliens because I find that much more interesting. So I'm watching the stuff on that, and then I see a video about Roswell, so I watch that, and then I see a video about what's the one? It's right after Roswell or a couple of years after Roswell. I can't remember the name of it, but it's another alien crash. And then I see a video about Ike meeting with the aliens, which was interesting.
Hilariously dumb.
And this is where I get to a point where I have trouble enjoying these because I would enjoy it a lot more if I knew the stuff was true. And unfortunately, what do they call them? The people who believe in ancient astronauts. Is that what they call them?
Yeah, the ancient alien theorists.
Yeah. That there's a.
Are you talking about the
name.
ancient astronauts? Well,
yeah, these are the people who believe in the ancient astronauts.
I think they're just called ancient alien theorists now, or something like that. Nut jobs, yeah.
There's an actual theory name for it, and I can't remember what. I watched so many of these; they repeated it over and over again, and I just don't remember it. But I don't know how much of what they're saying is actually true, and how much of it is embellished. And I'm really not willing to go digging through the archives to find,
Chibataur.
Because there's one story they tell about how Carter was really interested in knowing about aliens, and he demands a report on it. And he gets this report, and somebody then sees him sitting in a chair crying.
Yeah.
And I want to know how true that is.
That's a famous story, but Jimmy Carter was on record as having seen a UFO.
Yes.
There were 5 or 6 presidents that saw UFOs. So,
well, here's the thing, and this is what they talk about in one of the episodes, is a lot of these presidents, including Reagan, Clinton, Carter, was there another one? I can't remember if there was another one or not, but they're all very interested in it. And then suddenly just kind of drop it or outright deny it.
Yeah, they just stop talking or nothing to see here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dark Resurrect, for that feminist $12. What's giving me weird vibes is apparently the government's argument is that TikTok and its users, including Americans, don't have First Amendment protections. I hate both sides of the argument and am curious what the SCOTUS will decide. SCOTUS is probably going to decide that America has the right to protect itself. That's they've decided that many times in the past. So unless they decide there's something specifically wrong with the way the law was written, it'll probably be upheld.
Yeah, which it's dumb. It's a waste of time. It's a empty, hollow show. They're not going to actually do anything. China's still going to get your information. They're just going to do an end run around it. Like Monkey said, they're going to buy it from a third party.
Yeah. So what else did I see? There were a couple more of the videos that I watched where I'm like, okay, now I got to go ancient alien. I got to just dig in there because I know a little bit about the ancient alien ideas, Jack. And it's amazing to me how many times I jump down these rabbit holes and realize, hey, that's the plot of a video game I've played.
Yeah.
And the one that most intrigues me, and this is going back to having sex with aliens, Jack, is the idea that aliens came down and did something to some species on this planet, genetically modified them, maybe even bred with them, leading to the like biblical story of the Nephilim, and they have that story in many different cultures.
Yeah.
but basically aliens came down, humped some monkeys, and made us.
Well, there's no missing. There is literally a missing link between the monkeys and how we got to where we are. So
it is kind of amazing that there's no other animal even close to as smart as we are. They point to like dolphins and shit. Okay, you show me a dolphin build a car. Go ahead, I'll wait.
Yeah, I've never seen one do higher math.
Yeah.
There's smart animals, but there's, they're not.
They're smart they're smart by animal standards.
Yeah.
Like Phoebe shows signs of intelligence, but I would never ask her to, balance the checkbook because she can't do it. But what rings most true for me in that, Jack, is that there's something about human males, where there's a segment of our gender who, if they see a hole, they will put their wiener in it. They can't help themselves. And if that started with our ancient ancestors having been humped by aliens, it would make sense.
Yep. I'm calling it the space pervert theory.
The space what theory? Cut just a second there.
Space perverts.
I like space perverts. The space perverts came down and touched us. It is amazing how many of these little theories do fit in line with the myths of the time.
Yeah.
And frankly, I hate to get on my Egypt soapbox again, but there are things that the ancients did, I'm using air quotes here, that we can't do now.
Yeah, I find a lot of this is possible if you look at it from the perspective of, if, let's say you're an alien spaceship,
Sure.
You're out exploring, or there was a catastrophe on your home world, and you needed a place to either crash land or start over. So you find habitable planets within range, and you go to one and you land on it, and they've got like Neanderthals. Mm-hmm. You're like, yeah, we can kill them. You're close enough that you're genetically able to survive on the planet, because you have to be able to digest food and breathe the atmosphere, that sort of thing. I think that's a possible theory. We might be a seed colony from some group that like fell apart or devolved into infighting or had space plague or something, and we got forgotten about. Some colony somewhere that just nobody remembers. Like on Battlestar Galactica.
Well, there is the theory of the one planet. I forget the name. It starts with an N. It's in a really weird oblong orbit.
Nibiru. Yeah,
Nibiru. That's it. And if it's, I hate talking about this because we have to talk about it like, no, we don't believe in any of this shit. If that part of it is real, it's supposed to pass the Earth like every about 4,000. It's like 3,500 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So if it was close and they did all of this when they were around us, and then they left and near the year 2900, then it would make sense that every so often we see these advances in humanity that don't really have a good reason for.
Yeah, we seem to have little peaks and valleys for some reason. Real quick though, thank you, Cult of Krill, for that freedom donation of $14.92. It's a Columbus freedom, not for the Indians, but for Columbus. Ranting Monkey has no idea what he's talking about. We all know the Anunnaki from Nibiru genetically modified the human race into being and put the moon there as a hollow observation point. Duh. Yeah, that is a theory that's out there, that the moon was a satellite originally.
Yep. And we do know. Okay, look, I'm not willing to go that it's a satellite that was put there by somebody else, but we do know the moon has some very weird properties because the motherfucker rings like a bell.
Yeah, it's hollow. Which, if enough debris came around it from like comets and stuff, it could have buried a ship. If there was a large space station in orbit and it was like abandoned, eventually it would be covered with space debris, just because it would have its own gravitational pull, and eventually that would gather more and more pieces of trash, basically.
Cult of Krill, I did see your donation. I'll get it in just a second.
Thank you, Cult.
One of my problems I'm having, even watching these Ancient Alien guys, is that everything only revolves around like the last 4,000 to 6,000 years. Very few times will they go outside of that time frame.
Yeah, because we don't have enough written history. Past like 4,000 or 5,000 years. The Sphinx is probably older than that, and there are all sorts of weird things they found that would fall into weird time spots, like the Antikytherian device really should be from the Iron Age.
Let me get this before I get off on more of my rant. Thank you, Cult of Krill says, don't get me started on the Younger Dryas and precursor civilizations. It's one of the most fascinating topics to me, because our own, it's my problem with climate change, Jack, is so much of our world and our worldview is dominated by our own current arrogance.
Yes.
This is the most technologically advanced we've ever been. Really? What did the planet look like 50,000 years ago?
Yeah, we don't know. Civilization like ours is actually easily destroyed and erased, because we have a lot of things that are very biodegradable and renewable, and steel rusts. Most buildings won't last more than a few hundred years.
Which
you would have anomalous things like the pyramids might survive unless they get blasted into oblivion by like the Taliban or a nuke.
Which is actually smart if ancient civilizations, let's say that there was an advanced civilization back in the day, Jack. Somebody asked me earlier, what could they do that we can't? Precisely cut stone and move it easily hundreds of miles in some cases, in what today, even if we did it, would take a massive rig. And we know this because they had to do this with an art project either in LA or in Las Vegas, I forget which. They moved this giant stone that weighs like 50 tons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had to hydraulically lift it up, build girders underneath it, basically build a trailer underneath it to move it.
Yeah.
With a very powerful rig in front and one in the back to push it. And it could only go 5 miles an hour. And you're telling me they move stones twice as big as that, rolling it on trees that in some cases weren't even there?
Yeah, uphill.
Uphill.
Like, you look at like Puma Punku and Machu Picchu,
yes.
and that is pretty impressive work. So I could understand if you were talking about like Stonehenge. Sure, maybe they rolled that on a billion different trees. Is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? I don't know. But bigger stuff like the giant stones from the pyramids, I have some issues with that.
Thank you, Ham and Beans. Ham and Beans, thank you. Mud, water, fire, and ash destroys all that comes before it. The human race is far older than we can imagine. And yeah, this is part of the problem, is that let's go to the Sphinx, for example. You brought it up a second ago. There is no doubt that the Sphinx is older than the 4,000 to 6,000 years they tell us. It has to be at least 12,000 years old. And we know this, and even older than that, because we know this from the erosion, and that erosion had to happen. So you're talking another couple hundred years.
Yeah, there's proof of water erosion and plant decay.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a lot of plants floating around that part of Egypt in a really long time.
For 12,000 years. And before that, it's like another 12,000 years. So everybody, even the ones who are skeptical of the official Egyptologist storyline only typically go back to 12,000 years. It's basically a 12,000 year cycle. It could be 72,000 years in the past. But we're just like, nah, it's probably just the last 12,000.
Yeah, like Evil One just brought up Göbekli Tepe, and it's estimated it could be as old as 25,000 years. You're talking about like they know that the modern human brain has been around for about 47,000 years. That's what they're willing to admit to. So what's to say that we haven't had larger technological leaps and then it collapsed for whatever reason, and then we had to start over? Because that's not impossible.
Bubba says and I want to get to that in a second. Bubba says the Nile passes by the Sphinx. It does, but it doesn't flood enough to flood into the Sphinx enclosure.
And it hasn't, because it got diverted at one point due to, I think, an earthquake a few thousand years back. So it hasn't been lush there in a really, really long time.
Dangerous, thank you. I'm so disappointed we didn't get an encounter with aliens over the last few years. It would be hilarious to see aliens saying, very funny, guys. Now take us to your actual leader. Yeah, no shit.
Oh, that's probably why they haven't done it.
Okay, Jack, let's say for we see a comet coming. We just know, you know what, guys? There's no way we can stop this. There's no way we can defend this. We are fucked. We think maybe some life will live on. We want to build something to leave evidence that we were here and let them know that we understood complex math. We need to build something. What are you going to build it out of to give it the best chance of survival?
Stone. Preferably granite. But I mean, look at what would survive in a global catastrophe. You would have some things survive, like that were made out of stone. Maybe Mount Rushmore, a couple of stone structures. It's not going to be a lot, but there are theories out there. You look at, I think it's the Hopi or the Pueblo. One of the Indian tribes talked about these people called the Ant People. And there was this great catastrophe that was coming, and the Ant People lived underground and took these people in until the catastrophe was over, and then they let them come back out. That sounds a lot like if an asteroid's going to hit, you build a bunker or a vault, and you go hide out in there until the problem's over. And eventually that becomes mythology. Look at all the stories of like people that lived in the underworld.
Sorry, Backscan just said Monk's ego. Yeah, I mean, if you want to build it as something impenetrable. And it is amazing how many of the stories that these people weren't even near each other, and they have very, very similar fucking stories.
Yeah. I think a lot of the stories that you hear have a root in history, so there is something to explain them. Like Indian tribes in the northwest or northeast, rather, talking about giants coming down and marauding giants with red hair. They're probably talking about Vikings, because we know Vikings lived in Greenland and they made some headway into Canada. So it's not unrealistic that some of the Vikings made their way down further, or at least the stories of them did. And what would you describe them as? Vikings are taller than the average American Indian was. The average American Indian was like 5 foot tall. They're not going to be big people, but if you see somebody that's 6 foot, they're going to be a giant to you.
You know what? Well, yeah. You ever met somebody who's 7 foot tall? I'm 6 foot tall, and I if I have to look up somebody, God damn.
Yeah. If you're uneducated about how the world works and you see something outside of your schema, you only have so much to draw from.
Right.
So you're going to come up with terminology that it has to explain what you just saw. You see these big hairy dudes with metal weapons that simulate claws of a bear, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're going to think they're monsters. They're coming down, and Vikings were notoriously brutal. They're probably screaming and making all kinds of ruckus, and you're going to think they're cannibals.
My mom was 4'11" and a half, Jack. Next to me, she looked like a midget. If everybody in the world was her height, and then I pop up, I'm gonna be a freak.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Yeah.
I'm a giant to pretty much any North Korean.
Yeah.
The tall average North Korean height is 5'2" to 5'4", including men. By the way, a tall North Korean male is about 5'6". I'm 6'5". I'm over a foot taller than one of those dudes.
Yep.
I mean, that's in hand-to-hand combat. That's pants shitting terror. You get a big fat dude like me come running at you. I got a full beard and screaming like a lunatic. Maybe got some war paint on, and I'm not afraid of your little sticks. Yeah, that's going to be a little unnerving.
It's a good story, but Vikings are asynchronous. Maybe it's not Vikings. Maybe it's another group that is no longer even with us.
Yeah, it could have been another tribe. It could have been. I mean, look, we only know about like Leif Erikson's trip over, and the people that came with his groups and the subsequent ones. We don't know if other people didn't get lost at sea and wash up on the coastline somewhere, because Europeans are taller than American Indians.
Maybe it was Atlanteans.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Real quick, thank you, Cult of Krill, for that feminist donation.
Oh, man.
Everyone after the stream needs to check out a channel named the Y Files. Yeah, Brand's been mentioning it over on the Rumbles. So much about ancient conspiracies that there were with a lot of facts. His purpose is to build up the conspiracy, then tear it down and leave it up to the audience. Dark Sayings had a lot of really good videos up. Oh, hey, Dark. Speaking of which, he knows a lot about this stuff. So I find the Mount Shasta stuff really interesting, even though a lot of I don't really buy into the one conspiracy, the big conspiracy there, but there's a lot of lost civilization stories that I find incredibly fascinating.
Let me get this real fast. Thank you. This is Kyle. What happens is that every few 100,000 years, the devs finally release a new patch, and the Earth has to start the game over again. Fair. And thank you, Ham and Beans. We had hobbits in East Asia. Still do. I think the Denisovians, they were like 5 foot tall at best. Yeah, I mean, Asians are still tiny, man.
Yeah, the average height. Look, if you ever get a chance to go to a museum in the UK and see suits of armor, everybody was like 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
The average height is still around 5'8".
Yeah, for men
here in the States, but because health standards are so much better now, and we have so much better sewage treatment and stuff like that, we're not dying of dysentery. People are getting taller. We're healthier. And you see somebody like Shaquille O'Neal and send them back in time, that dude's going to be a fucking ogre to them.
And there's also part of, it's not selective breeding, but kind of selective breeding. A tall person is born, and then they have sex with a shorter person, and they make a taller person than would have normally come out.
Yeah.
It happens. It's survival of the fittest. Sorry, short guys, you're not getting any.
Right? My brother was 6'6". His wife was, I think, 5'2". Dad was 6'4", and mom was about 5'4". So yeah, we're tall people that like short chicks.
I told you my mom was 4'11" and a half. My real dad is like 5'10". My brothers, I think my little brother is the tallest of my two brothers, and he's only like 5'6".
Wow.
Yeah. All of my children are tall. My daughter, I think she's probably listening. I think she's like 5'8". Both of my sons tipped the scale right about 6 foot.
Wow.
Once the anomaly happens, you can't stop it.
You can't stop those super sperm.
I married a girl who's 5'2". And we make big kids. It's just I got the big sperm, man.
Yeah, it's just
that shit hurts coming out. You have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that you got to release that pressure.
Hey,
it's for the best.
Women bitch about pushing out one baby. We do millions at a time. I don't know what they're bitching about.
I don't know.
That is one of my favorite jokes, and it pisses off women. Anyway, I like this stuff, Jack. Going back and looking at this, because every time these guys get proven wrong on something, they just lie about it. And one of the greatest ones, I forget the guy's name exactly, but he's basically the head of antiquity shit in Egypt.
Oh, Zaraz. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, hey, we think there might be rooms underneath the Sphinx. And he's like, no, absolutely not. And then this is true. You can look it up. There's pictures of him, because he finally changes his mind, crawling into holes underneath the Sphinx.
Yep.
Comes out and says there's a room down there. And then he's like, yeah, there's no rooms down there. That I don't know what you're talking about. And now they won't even let people look. Nope. They sealed the hole on top of the Sphinx. There's a hole on the top.
Yeah, right on top of the head.
And they filled it in with concrete.
Yep. You can see it from satellite pictures too, or overhead shots of it. So look, they have a narrative that they want to stick to, because that's what they say it is. And they almost never go back on it.
One of the most interesting things to me about, and I know I go back to Egypt, but it's just such a fascinating site there in Giza. The way we found out that you guys do know the pyramid doesn't have 4 sides, right? I know you do, Jack, but you guys know that, right? The Great Pyramid isn't 4-sided, it's 8-sided. And the only way we know that is on accident. A guy was flying over it at the exact right time to see it. You can only see it at dusk and dawn on the autumn and spring equinox. It's literally the only times you can see it. Why? Other than to tell us that they can do complex math. This is what I was getting back with the stones before. If you're going to build, let people know, hey, there was a civilization here that could do some shit. You do it in stone. And you'd have to do it something like that, something that is so precise that it can only be seen twice a fucking year. Well, 4 times a year, technically. But, I mean,
on top of that, the mysteries would slowly be explained as you progress. You start uncovering more and more things like, oh my God, they were this precise and they knew this, these equations fit with this thing. Otherwise, it just looks like, like, oh, that's interesting. It's just a quirky anomaly or a fancy thing. And then you slowly discover more and more layers to it.
And that's what bothers me about it. Because look, guys, we don't even have to go to aliens for this. And I know I've said this, but we're on a coast to coast night. So fuck off. They could clearly do shit we can't. And by denying that they did it, we are missing the opportunity to try to figure out what it was they had that we don't. The stones that you just said it a minute ago. Paku
Göbekli Tepe?
No. With the H statues. Yes. Thank you.
Easter Island.
Pumapunku. No, Easter Island has the big statues. Pumapunku has the H blocks.
You have H blocks.
The cuts that are made in this stone, the drilling that is done in this stone, they simply, if we go by the time frame they gave us, they didn't have the tools to do. This is precision machine cutting. And they were doing this at a time when we're told they only had, at best, bronze tools.
if
in
that.
granite.
Yeah, you're talking about like the Mayans and the Incas. These were not highly advanced civilizations. They had civilizations, but they weren't like super advanced. They barely had wheels.
Eagle says bullshit to which part? Because everything I just said is true. Go look at the pictures of them. This shit is cut precise. The people who've been there said you can the edges on it are so well cut you can cut yourself on them still. Granite loses its strength when
you're
you
gonna
heat
die
it.
up there.
Well, somebody in chat says granite loses its strength when you heat it. That's fine, but not to the point where you can pour it. I mean, even if this was cast, it would not come out this well. This was cut. It was clearly cut.
You'd have to have some really high tech stuff to cast and make it work.
They did a test on those stones. They took a saw, a two-handled saw, with the metals of the time and tried cutting into one of these blocks. They were moving at something at like 4 millimeters a day is what they would cut, or 4 millimeters an hour or something like that. Yeah. And that's with an imprecise two-handed saw, two people doing it.
Yeah,
I just think we're missing a shit ton of possibilities by saying no. Do you believe in the axiom, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the answer?
I do lend credence to that, Sherlock. Yes.
All right. So if we take that axiom and we apply it to this, it doesn't have to be aliens. You can say, hey, we've eliminated aliens too. Fine. Then that means there had to be a civilization more advanced than we are. And we just have no record of it. We're perfectly willing to say that a meteor hit the earth and killed all the dinosaurs and left very little remnants of them around, Jack.
Yeah, none of their SUVs survived.
Yeah, but we can't do that with that. It happened to humans. There's no fucking way. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Oh, I didn't even get to read all of that, but I saw a couple of words that that's going to be an interesting post. Hang on one second, Jack. I'm loading it up here.
Oh, you're loading?
Yeah.
Load.
Cult of Krill, I'm beginning to think we should have you on for one of these talks. The ancient pyramids were a post-Younger Dreier attempt on the surviving Nephilim to get back into contact with the Younger Dryas mass extinction event. I could do this all day. Wish I had a microphone. LOL. Oh, you beat me to it there. I don't think the pyramids are post Younger Dryas. Younger Dryas is the 12,000 year ago event, Jack. That's the end of the Ice Age. So when the Graham Hancock and what's that guy's name? The two Randall something or other talked about on Joe Rogan the one time, because their theory is that the Ice Age ended because of a comet strike or a meteor strike here on the North American continent, and that heat is what melted the North American ice.
I just want to say this.
Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. We picked up a lag again.
Yeah, it happens.
Just because I know Dark Sayings is in the chat. Antediluvian.
There you
go. Yeah, look. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting theory. I like a lot of Graham Hancock's theories. I find them very fascinating, but unfortunately, most mainstream scientists are not going to change their views on anything until there is absolute proof. And I think the only place you're likely to find anything surviving like that is in Antarctica.
Maybe the South Pole.
That would be Antarctica.
Oh yeah. The reason being is that because there is a landmass there, and we do know that at one time it was tropical.
Yeah.
But even that, I mean, underneath all of that ice for this long, anything there is probably destroyed.
Yeah, but there would be remnants. There would be ruins. And that would show that there was a civilization before the ice. And that would be enough evidence. If there is something like that, I think if they found it, they're hiding it.
I hear you, but think about the reaction to Göbekli Tepe. This is a place that clearly changes our history. It doesn't change it, but it changes our understanding of history.
But they can explain that away by saying it's not as old as it looks. Look at all the other civilizations around.
Oh no, you know what their answer's been so far? Well, maybe there was one group. That doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, but if you found like the equivalent of like what are the big Mexican ruins with the pyramids and the structure surrounding it underneath the ice of Antarctica, you couldn't deny that it was there before the ice.
My guess is that they would come up with a theory like, we just miscalculated and the earth tilted and that ice formed 1,000 years ago.
Yeah,
because that's how these guys think, because they won't get out of the bubble that they're in.
No, they refuse to accept that they might be wrong.
I think they should be skeptical of new theories. Absolutely. But you should be just as skeptical of the existing theories.
Yeah.
Have a good night, Angela.
Good night, Angela.
The existing theories is what I have a problem with. All of the other one, yeah, it's speculation. But why won't you admit that what you're doing right now is speculation? No, it's what we've all agreed to. Well, then you're all idiots. The best theory they have for how the pyramids was built was that somehow they got water up into the area where they're building it and floated the rocks up there. Some of these rocks are 80 tons.
Nope, totally float, dude. They're like witches.
This is their best theory.
Hey, your science can't explain how shamans can summon lightning. So what do you know?
God, man. I'm not asking them to embrace ancient aliens or even a high-tech civilization like I think existed. But you've got to be able to look at it and go, yeah, that shit ain't right.
Sorry, your theory's stupid.
It's from a Bugs Bunny cartoon? What the fuck? You floated 80-ton bricks on logs up a pyramid.
Shut up, heretic.
Fuck. Just be a little open-minded. No. You don't have to throw everything out. You can even say, hey, this is the best working theory we have right now. But don't just throw out everything else, especially when it fits better than the bullshit that you have now. But it's our human arrogance, man. And look, as an arrogant motherfucker, I know, little hypocritical here, but human arrogance is stifling.
Yep.
Can you imagine, Jack? Let's go back to when you and I were a kid, right?
Well, that was a long time ago.
The 1980s, mid-1980s. Somebody told you not only will you be able to pick up a phone and call somebody on the other side of the planet, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg for just that phone call. And you will be able to do it from any point on the earth. They'd be like, stop playing. What are you talking about?
With a device in your pocket. It's like a supercomputer.
You can watch every television show that's ever been produced on a little box that you keep in your pocket. Yeah, anyway. They get jealous when they see you with your mobile phone. Yeah, I mean, if we went back to the 80s, they probably would. They'd kill us as aliens, Jack. So here's the other theory that I really like. And let me get your opinion here. Rather than coming down and mating with the primates that existed on the planet, What if we're the aliens? What if we are the bastard offspring of the original aliens that landed here? And being cut off from their own
That's
society.
what I was saying earlier.
Oh, I didn't catch that part. I'm sorry. Which do you think is more likely? That we're an offspring of them directly, or that we're a hybrid of them?
It's probably some hybridization at this point, because you commingled, with other like Neanderthals and stuff like that lived here. You're gonna have some of that. But humans are one of the few primates that can regulate their own breathing. Most monkeys can't do that. It's like the proboscis monkey and one or two others that can even hold their breath. Like if a chimpanzee falls in the water, there's a good possibility he's going to drown because he can't regulate his own breathing. So there's a lot of like little weird anomalies like that make me kind of question, because we don't have as much hair. We have better teeth. We're better looking. There's a lot of things that are very odd about humans compared to other mammals or primates.
We're the Australia of the galaxy. This is a prison planet.
Yeah, don't go to Earth. Ew, it's got humans.
Somebody said DNA would show that. I mean, it's been so diluted. How would it? Especially because see, science has this idea, and it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, that if there's life on other planets, it doesn't look like anything we've ever seen. And my question is, why? Why would you, even with evolution, that life on other planets would like only have 3 legs instead of 4?
It is DNA universal. Like, is 2 strands of DNA the same on Earth as it is on Altair 4 or whatever? If that's a consistent, then there's only going to be so many variations.
Thank you, Comrade Kitty. So we're Australian prison camp for alien criminals. I can see that. Thank you for becoming a member for month number 18. Yeah.
That actually would make a lot of sense.
It would.
Real quick, thank you, Cult of Krill, for that feminist donation. There's a reason why all of the world's governments have declared Antarctica off limits. God, I wish I had a mic. I know, man. It sounds like we have actually quite a few people in the chat that are interested in this.
No, see, the reason that it's off limits is so that we don't destroy the environment or get ourselves killed. It's all for us and the environment.
Squid living under the water hypnotized a bunch of Russians.
Yeah,
what?
You're breaking up just a little bit. Is that him or me, guys? If you guys heard him break up at all, it's him. If you didn't hear him break up at all, it's me. If the elements are the same on each planet, then it is obviously what? A default. Well, again, there's no good. Okay. Yeah, you're just breaking up a little bit here and there, Jack. It's not bad, so don't worry about it. But there's no real good reason to, especially if you believe in evolution, to believe that life is so much different anywhere else. Language would be different for sure. Maybe architecture would be different, but there's no reason to believe that the species that developed here wouldn't develop somewhere else along the same lines. And if you believe in a creator who put everybody here, then you would believe that they put them everywhere else too. And why wouldn't you just reuse the same assets? That's what I'm saying. You just use the same trees and stuff.
Yeah, you just have slight variation on them for to adapt to whatever environment you're working on. It'd be interesting because you would have, like, we already have such a diversity of life here that there, if we encounter something like the gray aliens that they talk about, a lot of people say that they can communicate without moving their mouths. Well, if they're telepathic, maybe they have some kind of hive mind and they're able to just kind of broadcast on the same wavelength as our thought patterns. That would not be that different than what like ants do, or other species that have drones or hive minds,
or Neuralink.
Yeah, or some sort of cybernetic upgrade. Or maybe they're just talking through a speaker, and the person talking to you is not the same person standing in front of you.
Comrade Kitty, thank you. It's so the alien queen doesn't escape again. That bitch, she keeps doing that shit. No, even when you look at like the gray aliens, for the most part, they look like us. They're just, there's some differences in the shape of the head, the shape of the eyes. And that I can give you. But if you ever see like the artist renderings where they're like, okay, we're going to have this scientist show us what aliens look like, it's always some goofy looking shit. They always have either more legs or less legs, or they got a nose up their ass or something weird like that. It's never like, hey, that could be a tiger. It's always like, that looks like a cartoon, motherfucker. What are you doing? Science, Jack. It's wonderful. All right, the real question, though, Jack. Are aliens visiting us now?
I don't know. Well, it depends. Like, who's to say they're actually space aliens? If so, like you saw the Abyss, right?
No.
What if they just live in the ocean?
Well, I mean, there are theories that that's where one of the bases was under the ocean. One of the alien bases.
It may not be an alien base. They may just live on the ocean floor, or maybe they live in the inside the earth in caverns or something, and they're just like a weird mutation that they happen to be more science focused. That's why they have big eyes, because they have to see in the dark.
Retro, thank you. Did you know that they found a hidden chamber the size of the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid and are making no effort to get to it? I didn't know about the size of the room, but yeah, that's off the shaft coming out of the Queen's Chamber. They found a little door, and the people who found that door were told they weren't allowed to be there anymore. And the door is special because it's the only place that they've found metal inside the pyramid. There's two metal handles on it.
Yeah, so it's meant to be opened. What does it open onto? Well, if you saw Moon Knight, you would know. Real quick, though, thank you, Evolved Potato. There's something called convergent evolution, where multiple creatures evolve similar features that have no connection to each other. Crabs are the go-to example. So many crabs have basically no relation to each other. 4 or 2 legs will be the basic. That's my theory.
For the record, they have seen into that room. They another group went in there and they had a camera that could fit through the small opening that's in that door. And there's a big chamber in there, and there's like painting in there, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about the size of it though. Different from the shaft door. Then no, I didn't know about that.
Well, if there's a room there, it probably has hieroglyphics on the walls, and that might be why they don't want you to see what's in there, because whatever's on the walls, whatever statues are in there, whatever things are laying around, are probably going against whatever the main narrative is.
You ever see the footage of the guys when they came back, the original Apollo 11 guys, when they came back and they're giving that press conference, and they all look like, they don't look like they just came back from the first successful landing on the moon.
They look like they came back from something scary.
They look like they were told they've been given 2 months to live. Yeah.
Well, we all know they were getting the energon out of that crashed spaceship.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the moon has a lot more secrets than we know about.
The moon rotates perfectly to the point where we have only ever seen one side of it.
Yep. It's like it's sitting in a Lagrange point, which is where you would station your spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's watching us like a space station would.
Yeah, we The dark side of the moon, we don't say that just because when it rotates, it's dark on that side, because it doesn't fucking rotate.
Yeah. That's not weird at all. Not weird at all. That there's this giant thing they can't really explain how it got here, and it's covered in dust and it's hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something weird about that.
I learned about the hollow earth on this show one night. We were talking about conspiracy theories. You weren't here that night, and somebody asked me about them. I don't know what that is. But there's no question that there's at least a large hollow part of the moon.
Yeah.
It can't resonate the way it did. Maybe it's just a giant space symbol.
Well, it's stuck in the firmament, so
maybe we're
supposed.
It's
just a giant sticker that holds it onto the firmament.
Maybe we're supposed to play it like a drum to get the aliens to come back.
Oh yeah, we have to play out that tune from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
No, what we do is go dun 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 dun, dun and then wait for them to answer.
Dun, dun.
Yes,
shaving a haircut.
Yes. I never knew that's what it was called until Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd only ever heard the music. I'd never heard the wording go with it. I really am fascinated by this stuff. Stuff like Loch Ness and all that. I find it interesting. But at the end of the day, even if there is a giant prehistoric dinosaur floating around Scotland's loch, I don't care.
I do. Look, I have an affinity for Loch Ness. It was one of the first things that really got me into weird stuff. When I was like 8 years old, I heard that, and then I bought a copy of Monsters You Never Heard Of. That and like the Berkeley Square horror. A lot of that stuff I found totally fascinating. But the more you look at some of the stuff, the crazier stuff out there is way more fascinating.
I like the stuff that has bigger meaning to it. Like Bigfoot, even if Sasquatch is real, all right, there's another monkey running around the jungle.
He lives in blurry areas.
If the stuff about the aliens is true, man, the entirety of human history has to be rewritten.
Yeah, I mean, what are they doing here? Why haven't they conquered us? Are we delicious to them? Are they just space drug dealers?
There's a couple of theories on that, and one of them involves the meeting with President Eisenhower.
Oh God, that's so made up.
No, they met.
He
disappeared for a whole day for a dental checkup.
Yeah, that the nitrous oxide had nothing to do with
it. But supposedly met with them and made a deal that they would give us technology, and in exchange they could, steal humans once in a while, as long as they brought them back unharmed. And then they went back on it. I don't know. Apparently they were Darth Vader. Pray I don't change it again.
Yeah. I don't know why they would honor that contract at all. No, I think they're what we're seeing. If they are space aliens, we're looking at people that are creatures that either just found us, or these are probes that are being sent out to collect information in return, or they're criminals. Because
could be. I say could be, yeah.
Yeah, like if you ever saw the movie I Come in Peace, there's it's not that great of a movie, but it's pretty fun. And the idea is that there's an alien running around stealing endorphins out of people because aliens get high off of it.
Nice.
And I was like, that's genius. So what if it's something like that? What if they're just here because like you always hear about people getting probed? Well, if you're collecting stuff, the enzymes in your stomach or intestinal tract is how we digest food. They would need that in order to eat anything on our planet if they're very dissimilar to us. So
but it's a much easier way to get to the stomach enzymes through the mouth than the ass.
No, through the belly button.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of the stories aren't anal probes. They're jerking you off and stealing your spooge, or they're probing your belly button. And if you really wanted to get enzymes out of someone, you go through the belly button. A lot of surgeries are being done that way now too.
Yep.
So that would be a much more logical thing than like that. They're just bored and wanted to poke a few people. Although I don't rule out space teenagers either.
Well, the other fucking teenagers. The other option, and this goes with my theory that DNA is universal, literally, is that there's something wrong with their genetic code, so they're stealing some of ours to fix it.
Yeah, that's been a popular one that that they've experimented on themselves too much, or they're just dying off. Maybe their homeworld finally fell into its sun or something. But that would explain why they need our genetic material, and they're just slowly harvesting it. We could be like a giant farm.
But how scary would that be that you wake up one day and you find out you have 500,000 alien babies and you're on the hook for child support?
Yeah, I would be curious to know what their child support laws were.
So would I.
You know, because if they're like more of an ant colony kind of species, maybe they don't care so much. Because everybody's got a bunch of little drones running around, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to say. Real quick, though, thank you, Keldrig. Your hive mind idea reminded me of the Tower of Babel. I have a Christian interpretation of it. Man tried to build a tower to challenge God, so God confused their languages. However, if you go with aliens, who's to say they couldn't fuck with our telepathy?
Sure.
Yeah. Humans, they've done some research where humans can actually perceive like 1 second or a millisecond into the future. And of course, you've got experiments where people test their like precognitive abilities. So we might have some kind of latent psychic powers that we don't know about that are just very, very trivial to us because we've never had to flex that muscle before.
Okay, this is going to make some people are going to think I'm crazy here, but I don't give a shit. Do you believe in deja vu?
To an extent, I do. Whether it's because if I've had dreams that came true, like at least on surface level, I'm talking to a specific person, having a specific conversation, and I know I had a dream about that before.
I have been able, and it doesn't happen very often, guys. I'm not Miss Cleo here, but I have been able to tell my wife what is about to happen because I recognize it immediately as deja vu because it's been happening to me since I was little. And so it, just like in that scene from Groundhog's Day where Bill Murray's telling Andy, whatever fuck her name is, what's about to happen. I've done that before. And it's only for moments. It's not like I can't do it for like, and tomorrow we're going to have chicken for dinner. Nothing like that. It's only like a 30-second interval at most. And Andy McDowell, thank you. And if you tell people that who either have never experienced it or have no imagination, they're like, nah, but I've literally done it. I don't know what it is, Jack. If we're like in a time loop or like you said, we can see a little bit, but there's so much more to us than we're willing to admit. And anytime somebody brings up something weird like that, you always have the naysayers like, no,
But the Soviets and the Americans spent millions and millions of dollars on programs like MK Ultra and Project Stargate, where they were trying to test people's latent psychic abilities or to see if they could train people to do stuff. I don't think those programs would have lasted very long if they weren't having some kind of progress.
Sure.
So I think that humans are a lot more complex than we admit ourselves to be. Maybe it freaks people out too much. Maybe it's just the puritanical limitations of our society. I don't know. And of course, you're going to get called a witch and burned at the stake if you think differently. But I think it's important that if you have something like that, the majority of people aren't going to tell you that they're like that because it would frighten them.
or not just frighten them. I mean, they're going to even they'll treat you like a joke. You will become a pariah for some reason.
Yeah, you would be an outcast anyway, because how do you explain to someone that you can somehow communicate with other things or see things other people can't, or start fires with your mind or something?
And then you have people like John Edwards who just cheat people, so everybody thinks that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's some unexplainable shit out there.
Yeah.
And we turn our nose up at it, and I think we do that at our peril.
Let me grab a slabs real quick, and then we got to do a birthday song. Thank you, Evolved Potato. Come on now, we all know the truth. Our father Yakub created us after the black people left the moon. Well, they are creatures with soul and made of plants. So that's just science, yo.
Who are we singing to?
Target.
It's your birthday, and this one is for you. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Target. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Oh, excuse me. I've been going to bed really early, Jack. This is way late for me. Happy birthday. I hope you had a good one. I really, really do. Those programs lasted because we fooled the Russians into thinking it was working, so they'd waste money on research. Then they pretended it worked, so we would waste money researching it. Look, hey, again, as somebody who's actually experienced that, I don't know if their experiments worked, but it is something that should be researched. I just don't know. Like Jack, I could never make myself do it.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened in a long time. It probably hasn't happened in 20 years.
Yeah. My mom would always have things where she would know stuff that she had no way of knowing. She'd just offhandedly comment on it. Like, she knew where I was, even though I'd lied through my teeth. And I knew she hadn't busted me. But she knew I was at a specific place. But it wasn't anything that, like, she could control or anything. It's just something that would happen.
You've experienced intuition. No. I get it. You're a skeptic, but no, it wasn't intuition. Intuition wouldn't tell me who was going to be walking through a door and what they would say. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I think it's one of those things that you're going to be skeptical of if it's never happened to you or somebody you directly know. But yeah, there's of course like I lost my thought. Never mind.
What do you think about like out of body experiences? Somebody mentioned that in chat.
I don't know. I've heard some pretty interesting stories from people under anesthesia where their body's unconscious, but they can recall conversations. So I don't know if subconsciously they're picking that up, but they talk about seeing what's going on from above. From people that I would actually trust to not lie to me about something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think maybe that's possible. I don't know if that's like your so-called soul leaving your body, or if that's some ability that, maybe we needed to deal with like pain or something like that. Who knows? Maybe. I'm going with maybe on that.
That's when it's one of those that I haven't experienced, so I have a hard time imagining it can happen. So I get the skepticism. I was just told that my experience is confirmation bias. Yeah, you just are a non-believer. I get it. That one I have a lot more, and especially things like astral projection and stuff like that. Most of the people who will tell you about that are really high when it happens.
Yeah, look, anybody that tells me they're psychic is likely a crackpot.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's not something you brag about. It's something that's so out of the ordinary, you're going to feel like a freak. And you're going to kind of keep that on the down low most of the time.
Well, probably even 30 years ago, I wouldn't be as open about my belief in ghosts as I am, because I just don't give a fuck what people think.
Yeah.
Do I believe in ghosts? Yes. Do I think they're all around us at all times and that Whoopi Goldberg can talk? No. I do think there's things out there that just aren't explainable, and they are explainable. We just can't explain them.
Yeah,
because of our closed minds.
And maybe you're capable of sensing things that you can't see, because we have very limited vision as humans.
Sure.
So there might be creatures that we can't see that. Did you ever read From Beyond Lovecraft or see the movie?
No.
Basically, this guy builds a machine that allows people to see things that are like kind of running parallel to us.
Oh, okay.
That can't see us, we can't see them. And then he broke that wall down, and of course, monsters started eating people. So, yeah, maybe there's something like that where you get a sense of something that you can't see around you. Like, you ever stood in a dark room and somebody snuck up behind you, and you had no reason to know they were there? You didn't hear them, but you can sense that they're there.
Sure, yeah.
So maybe there's something like that where you have some kind of situational awareness that comes off as like a psychic ability, or it could be mistaken for that, but it's absolutely natural, normal thing.
Yeah, you can do that with staring at somebody. If you stare at somebody long enough, they will look at you. Unless they get up and leave right away. You got, say, 5 people in a room, nobody's looking at each other, and one of them starts to stare at one of them. Eventually, they'll look at them. Is it because they realized they were being watched, or is it because they decided to look up at that moment? Who's the witch now? What Backscan do?
Scroll up and read it.
I can't read.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you're blind. Backscan said, I could predict the future. Monk will mispronounce something, and Jack will talk about tiny girl brains.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
You're a witch. You can see the future.
You need a 900 number. What do you think of the people who paid Miss Cleo a bunch of money and then had the nerve to sue her?
They're dumb.
At some point, aren't you at fault?
Yeah. Well, take a little responsibility for your poor choices and what you believe.
Even with like deja vu, which I 100% believe in, I would never go to somebody and go, I'm a deja vu master. Because
call total bullshit on that.
Yeah, you're talking about at most a 30-second glimpse into the future, and nobody's ever been able to actually control it in any of the stories you hear.
Yeah, because it's not repeatable. It's just flash in the pan thing that happens on occasion. But without predictability, you can't measure it.
But I got a 900 number, and if for $2.99 a minute, you can call my ass, and I can lie to you.
Yeah.
I used to watch my wife watched John Edwards a lot, and I used to watch that.
Just cold read.
Yeah, it's an old parlor trick.
Yeah.
I love. I think it was it Always Sunny where they did that in one episode? Yeah, there's the psychic, and he's trying to guess a name, and he finally says it's a B, D, and she, Dennis. He goes, yes, Dennis, and he's your friend, my brother. Yes, your brother. That's what I said.
He's very close to you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just an old spiritualism charlatan trick.
Yeah.
It's not a very good one either. John Edwards was really bad at it.
Well, they did a good job with the editing of that show.
Yeah. Yeah, him and Sylvia Brown, who was a known fraudster.
I get why people do that stuff, why they buy into it, as long as you're doing it for fun, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be like, yeah, I'm not quite sure how you picked up the clues, but well done.
Yeah, so many people bought into that crap, though. Like, that is easily disprovable. That's what I liked about Houdini, was he'd go around to spiritualists and say, look, I'll give you 10 grand if you can prove that you're psychic.
Yeah.
Or you can summon the dead. And they never could. He could bust them every time.
Well, with the cold reading, I mean, South Park literally demonstrated how it's done
and
explain it. There are books out there that'll teach you how to do it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a technique that was used in the 1900s, early 1900s. It's been busted several times.
I don't remember this John Edwards. I'm sure you can still find stuff on him. Just make sure you look for psychic John Edwards and not just John Edwards, because then you'll get the senator.
Yeah, with his stupid hairdo.
Yeah. Cheated on his dying wife. What a douchebag. Your brain making connections to similar things is an evolutionary trait. All right, look, unless you experience it yourself, you'll never believe it. And you'll never convince me it's not real because I've lived it. Just so you're aware. You can keep saying things, but
yeah, we'll just agree to disagree on that.
Yeah. And I get the skepticism. I do. All right. Back to the aliens for a minute, Jack.
I think they're lizard people. They're slee stacks.
There is that notion too. And if you look at some of I don't know how they get that a lot of the Egyptian things are birds, because they kind of look like lizards to me.
Well, I mean, if you believe dinosaurs had feathers, they're all just giant chicken people.
Giant chickens.
Delicious chickens.
What do you think? And if you don't want to answer, I understand. What do you think of the theory of evolution?
I mean, I understand it, and I understand why people believe that, but I'm gonna need a little more proof.
My problem with it is the theory of evolution gets mixed up with adaptation or survival of the fittest, and those are entirely different things.
Yes. We don't have all of the necessary links in the chain for evolution to be concrete. That's why it's still a theory.
Well, I would give it to them if just one time they could find a species, right? And it doesn't have to be human, any species. Like, say they find a brown trout, and whatever its predecessor was, they got some of those, and that predecessor turns into a brown trout too. You know what I mean? We've never had that. None of the things that supposedly turned into other things ever turn into that other thing again.
You can't really test it because it takes so long for evolution to happen.
Yeah.
So, how long does a trout carry its young in its pregnant belly?
I don't even know why I picked trout out of the thing.
I know, but as soon as you said it, I think of kraut and tea.
I do, because I was arguing the theory of evolution with somebody one time, and to prove it to me, they gave me an experiment with fish. Oh. And there were 4 experiments done with light and dark colored fish and predators in each of them. And when the let's say they had really bright colored fish and a bright tank that they were in, they lived and thrived, and the predator couldn't find them. And see, that's proof of evolution. I'm like, no, that's literally survival of the fittest. They didn't change and become something different. It's the ones who stood out, who got eaten. So the genes that didn't stand out passed down.
Yeah, that's why only redheads can shapeshift.
Yeah, they didn't sprout a fucking leg and start walking on water so they didn't have to deal with that predator anymore.
You don't know.
I do know, because that's what the experiment was.
Shut up. I think that as far as humans are concerned, I think there are a lot of different types of primates on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this a little bit before, but I think that humans are a little bit different than everything else. We don't quite fit in.
No. Wait a second. Where was that at? That's because the mutations are random, and only if they either benefit or do not hinder sufficiently do they continue. Okay, but where are the other species then? that it doesn't turn into the same species, fine. What about a different species off of it again? There's never been an example in the hundreds of years we've been studying where anything like that's even come close to happening. All we have is color or height or speed variations, which that's not mutating. That's just survival of the fittest. Those are different things.
Yeah, not like those witch redheads.
Yeah, redheads are, hey, I'm a half redhead. Be careful.
Yeah, if you got brown eyes, you're a fucking changeling fairy baby.
I was born with blue eyes and now they're hazel.
Yeah, changeling.
I am changeling indeed. When it comes to conspiracy theories that are plausible, none like Bigfoot. What's your favorite?
Like plausible ones?
Yeah.
The octopus is an alien.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's probably one of my favorites. I've got a lot of favorites because they're so fun. Even if they're not true, they're a lot of fun. Like the missing 411 theories, like portal theories. I think they're fun.
The missing 411 ones are just weird.
Some of them are really fucked up. Some of them you can explain, like, okay, people just got lost and they wandered off further than, and nobody found them. Other ones don't make a whole lot of sense. They should have found that person. Like, they search an area with a lot of people, and then they find nothing. Somebody goes back a couple days later, is taking a whiz, and they find a body right where they'd already searched.
Yeah,
that's very odd to me. And there's a story called Robot Grandma about this kid that got lost in the woods and ended up running into his grandma. And she took him to a cave and wanted him to poop on a piece of paper. And he said there was all this weird junk laying around. And it started to kind of weird him out. And he's like, I don't have to poop. And she's like, you poop on this fucking paper right now. And that's when he started noticing like sparks coming out of her head. And of course, then she leads him out and he ends up getting found. And then it turns out that his grandmother had like an alien abduction type scenario a few years prior in that same area. That's weird. That's a weird story.
Why poop on a paper?
I don't know. Apparently robot grandmas collect poop. It may be in jars or something. I don't fucking know. It's a weird story.
If I give my grandchildren paper, I usually give them crayons or markers or something.
Yeah, she didn't want something for her fridge. She wanted something, a little more fecally.
Keldrick, thank you. If anything, all the theory of evolution proves is that ineffective animal designs die off. It does not have enough evidence to support that new species or superior versions of old species mutated into existence. True, exactly. I'm not saying the theory of evolution isn't true. I'm saying that there's no proof of it.
Yeah, I would just want some more evidence. That's all. I'm not convinced by anything. I'm fully capable of I'm open to the possibility that we're the survivors of a Martian nuclear war. I don't fucking know.
That's another one of the theories that I was watching about that, Mars used to be the inhabited planet and it got fucked, so they fucked off to Earth. Which is an interesting theory.
Yeah, it would explain the face on Mars.
There's also the theory that it was not the habited planet, but it was a waypoint for the aliens to stop before they got to Earth.
Yeah. I mean, I would think a species that could travel between star systems would need that. Like they would have waypoints in the dead space between solar systems.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you'd put a waypoint. Like a beacon of some kind that you kept extra supplies on.
Well, you got to pass through the asteroid belt. Maybe that's where they stopped to poop for their grandma.
No, the asteroid belt is the poop. Dun, dun, dun. It's the Kuiper belt. It's actually the clenched one out belt.
There are literally thousands of intermediate species found, or they're different species that just happen to be alive at one time too.
One theory I did hear that I thought was really interesting is our location in the galaxy being on the spiral arm.
Mm-hmm.
We're not near a lot of gamma bursts, which apparently cause a lot of problems with atmospheric conditions that make life habitable on planets. So it's possible that we're kind of anomalous. Plus, we do have all those asteroid belts from either that broken up planet out by Mars or the Kuiper belt where the comets hang out. And maybe that prevented a lot of aliens from coming in contact with us. We're sort of shielded from a lot of the shenanigans that go on in the galaxy. So, it might be too difficult to navigate an asteroid field without really fucking up your ship. So they have to send in smaller craft, and they just got around to it, or their probes did, and with their androids or whatever that are actually doing the probing. And they're like, oh, look, we found some life here.
Couldn't they just go up and around? Couldn't they use Kirk's method from Wrath of Khan? Think in 3D instead of 2D. I mean, most of the stuff in our solar system is on a plane.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist or an astrophysicist. I'm no Neil deGrasse Tyson in his mind.
No, you're smarter than he is.
God, I hope so. I don't know. But I think that life is a lot more common than we think. They didn't used to think there were a whole lot of Earth-like planets. They're starting to find stuff that might be inhabitable, or at least more Earth-like out there. And they're in the thousands now.
It's even more than that. The last number I saw was an estimated 200 billion planets in the known universe capable of possibly supporting life. They're in the sweet spot. Forget what they call that. The habitable zone, basically.
Yeah.
With the right number or the right star spacing, all of that. Which when they do that, I wonder if they consider Mars in that same spot. I mean, Mars no water on it, no atmosphere.
They don't consider it because they only go by what they know of Earth. So it's only Earth conditions that they look for. We don't know if other creatures, like you could have larger animals live on hotter worlds. The dinosaurs did it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Goldilocks
zone. There it is. Thank you, guys.
But they're going off of only what they know of Earth. If you're looking at like a silicone-based life form, the situation would be even more different than what we're describing.
Sure.
We're carbon-based. We only know carbon-based life forms. So if you come across something that's somehow sentient and comprised of plasma, you're totally off the wall now. You have no idea how to communicate with something like that.
There's a potential of some of Saturn's moons having sea creatures living under the ice sheets. Yeah, I mean, do you remember when they found those weird fish at the bottom of the ocean with the lights on their heads?
Yeah, the phosphorus ones. Yeah,
really like cool. Nothing can live down. What the fuck is that thing?
Yeah, they said for the longest time nothing could live down there.
Yeah.
They also said the coelacanth that it was dead for 25 million years till some asshole caught one off the coast of like England in the 30s.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, whoops.
And I get why we use some of the metrics and stuff we do, but how much does that 200 billion planets go up if you go 22 million miles away from us over to Mars and that's habitable?
Yeah, different creatures can survive in different environments. There's all sorts of animals in the desert and the deep ocean. So if they can sustain themselves in their environment with, whatever food sources are there, life might be way more abundant. They used to say there was no water on most of these planets within our own solar system, and now they're finding water everywhere.
Yeah.
It may not be, something you'd want to drink, but you could purify it.
Yeah, they're fairly certain there's water underneath the surface of Mars.
Yeah. We never actually hit play on this video.
I wasn't planning to. I just brought him up so they had something else to look at besides our two little things. Yeah, I just brought it up because like we need the ancient alien guy on here for us to talk about this.
I think a lot of this stuff is very interesting, and I think being products of like the 70s and 80s, we were exposed to more of these kind of like ideas because you saw shows like Land of the Lost with the Sleestaks, and they were a super advanced species that fell, and now they're like basically retards running around in their old cities. And you had all these cool space shows like Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers of the 25th Century, In Search of, and there was just more interest in like the possibilities. And people are very closed-minded these days.
Yeah. Well, to a point, it's always been closed-minded, or at least in a lot of cultures, religion is what dictated what any strange phenomenon was, and you weren't even allowed to ask.
Yeah.
And I'm not bashing religion, guys. I think there's very good reasons for religion, and I think we'd probably be better off if more people embrace some of the traditions. But it has stifled a lot of science.
Yeah, even almost every religion has its own form of mysticism in it, and weird supernatural stuff going on. Like you read the book of Genesis, there's basically 2 origin stories for humanity, and there's some weird stuff. They start talking about like the Watchers and giants.
The Nephilim come from the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, Blake 7, that was a great show. So, I just think that people, even like really religious people, are overlooking their own supernatural elements that have a lot of things that aren't explained.
Sorry about that. What I was saying was that the Nephilim come from the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah,
it was the idea that the angels came down and had sex with the humans, and made this race of giants. You have many people. When I read the Bible, one of the things that really jumped out at me is because I'd been to Sunday school, Jack, but they don't really read the Bible to you in church.
No, they read excerpts.
Yeah, they read a couple passages here and there, and the preacher gives you the story and the lesson you're supposed to take. But I was shocked when I learned how old some of these fuckers were in the Bible.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years old. There's stuff that people who are religious believe that, like you said, it's clear mysticism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But if you suggest any of it today, like, no, can't happen.
Well, and there's so much symbolism, especially in like the Book of Revelation, or if you go to some of the books that weren't included in the King James Bible by the Council of Nicaea, you start reading like the Book of Enoch or the Book of Thomas. There's some really weird stuff going on.
Yeah, the Book of Enoch, that's where we really get a lot of weird stuff. Again, guys, I'm not bashing on religion. I'm really not. Actually, I think a lot of religious texts back up some of the shit that is thought about ancient civilizations and how we all got here to begin with.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just read the Ramayana. There's some crazy stuff going on in there. You want to talk ancient aliens?
Yeah.
With flying cities and basically they're talking science fiction style battles, but describing it as dudes on flying carpets with bows and arrows.
I saw one of those today that they were talking about, and it was balls and X's that were fighting. And somebody pointed out, if you didn't know what it was and a biplane went over, it would look like an X.
Yeah. Yeah. And the chariots that were described, the angels' descriptions, they're all very bizarre. What Enoch saw before he was abducted by the space aliens. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in there.
Yeah. And guys, I'm not trying to convince you. Just check this stuff out yourself. Look, there's some really interesting stuff in there. And look, there's a lot of it you can just dismiss. I want to get back to the Roswell stone for a second. So I told you there's this pattern on it, right?
Uh-huh.
It eventually ends up as a crop circle in England.
Oh.
Totally the rock was found, I believe, after the crop circle, but totally unrelated. But they took this thing to a stone cutter, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I could easily make that." And so he makes a little pattern, and he uses sandblasting to sandblast it out. And they're like, "No, the lines aren't quite as well done."
Okay, dude.
Sure. But what they did prove is a man could have done that easily.
Yeah.
And that's when it really hit me. I was like, what if the ancient folks found a way to do sandblasting precisely?
Or 3D printing.
Or 3D printing, yeah.
You know, computers can etch stuff into all kinds of things.
Sandblasting wouldn't need to be that advanced.
No.
And we do know they had things like electricity back then. I mean,
yeah, the Baghdad battery.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy to do.
I do wonder how they came up with the idea of the battery.
You know, I like to fall back on the fact that people are lazy, and they will find a way to do anything that doesn't involve more work.
Some dude was drinking some lemon juice and dropped his copper bar in it and got a zap.
Yeah, and he's like, how can I make money off of this and not work my job moving rocks around?
Yeah, so I have a sandstone battery from Egypt. For real? That's awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Primitive batteries aren't real hard to make. Evolution is explained by unintentional mutations that became prevalent because they are beneficial. Yeah, because all species are known for mating with the weird looking thing. I'm just saying. Anyway, I have to ask Brave a few questions to get that answer. Or had to ask Brave. Oh, I don't know what's going on. It's a fake. What's a fake? The Baghdad batteries or the battery that they got, the Samsung battery? I don't have a lot else to say, Jack, and I'm in a lot of pain. I'm willing to keep going, but yeah, guys, it was aliens, man. It was aliens. And by aliens, I could even mean just humans that we haven't been able to exactly explain how they were able to do it. They'd be alien to us at this. Can you imagine, Jack, if we did find some kind of proof of an advanced human from, say, 20,000 years ago? We would think they were aliens. We'd have to DNA test that shit to make sure they were human. We'd be like, there's no way they had a NASA suit back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at a lot of the depictions of creatures. They have animal qualities. Well, who's to say it's not a uniform?
Yeah, Ancient Aliens is just entertainment. It's entertainment, but there are some interesting theories in there that explain things better than the official story. Does it make it the right story? No, but it sure. Aliens makes fuck ton more sense than excuse me, floating 80-ton rocks uphill. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Aliens makes way more sense than any theory on how the pyramid was built. You ever seen the other pyramids in Egypt?
The sad ones that were like bad copies.
Yeah, the majority of them look like shit. They're much smaller rocks. They haven't stood the test of time. And we know these ones came after because there's a historical record for a lot of them. And they look like garbage. But they totally just put all of their effort into the one that their ancestors made. Fuck off with that shit.
Yeah, I mean, we did lose toilet technology for like 1,000 years when Rome fell. But, I mean, you made sad imitations of the pyramids. That's embarrassing.
They had the it's not like we lost the toilet and had one sitting right there for us to look at. It's not like the Great Pyramid disappeared for a long time.
You don't know. David Blaine was there. He made
David
it vanish.
David Copperfield did that shit. Yep.
Yeah, he hit it, then forgot to undo it.
Oh, there's just certain things that you can look at and go, there's no way that's the right answer. And if you can't do that, then you're not actually paying attention to what we're being told and all the evidence. Does that mean it's aliens? No. Doesn't mean it's not? No.
No, it's a mystery. There's a lot of these movies we'll just never know. What was Mothman? Where did the pyramids come from? I don't know. Yeah, we are forgetting about Rome Girl. She could probably explain a lot of this to us.
Rome Girl would probably tell us that the pyramids were actually built by the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, clearly. I mean, if Rome was a literal circus, what would the pyramids be?
Right?
Grain elevators?
The early bidet. They couldn't get the sizing right. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming and hanging out with us on this Coast to Coast AM special edition of Monkey in the Morning.
I believe it'd be Coast to Coast MIT AM.
There you go. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for all the support. We love you. Cannot ever thank you enough for everything you do for us. Jack, anything you want to shell out?
No, but real quick, thank you, Tyrite, for that very generous donation. The plumbing bob is mentioned in the Bible, and that is still used in construction. That's true. Also, the early spirit level was made around the 1700s. Rome created self-healing concrete buildings. Roman concrete is amazing. And apparently, they used a special kind of sand that is only located in certain areas. I saw a documentary about this, and it blew my fucking mind. But Roman concrete is the best, and they couldn't replicate it for ages. And that is awesome. But thank you for bringing that up, Tyra. And thank you for the generosity.
I hate to correct you, but Rome Girl told us about this. That was all stolen from the Babylonians or some shit.
The Greeks. It was the Greeks.
No, it wasn't
Roman
that. It was,
writing.
It was it Africans? She told us on one of hers where they stole all their stuff from.
Oh, yeah, they were stealing it from everyone else. The Greeks
and
the Babylonians and the Sumerians, I'm sure. Everybody else, because Rome was a literal circus.
Yeah.
But thank you guys all for the donations and all the support you give us and coming out and listening to this nonsense.
Not nonsense. It's true. Look it up. There's no fucking way the ancient Egyptians built that fucking pyramid. I will die on that hill.
I think people need to be more open-minded and at least consider the possibility that the narrative isn't exactly what they're telling you. And there's a lot more going on in the universe.
Go out there and cut down some trees and show me how you float an 80-ton block with it. I'll wait.
It's clearly climate change, Monkey.
Well, again, going back to Puma Punku, there's not even trees. It's at 12,000 some odd feet in the air. Trees don't even grow there.
Yeah, there were no fucking trees up there.
And no, they rolled them uphill on trees that don't exist.
The trees they brought with them.
Anyway.
They had to roll their supply of trees up on other trees. And then apparently they just threw them off the mountain.
Just threw them all down.
Trees left.
Some of it, you eliminate the impossible. And that is impossible. It just is. So, Jack, a pleasure as always, my friend. I really have fun when we do shows like this.
I do like these kind of shows.
Everybody, tomorrow we'll probably be covering the hearings. I have no doubt there'll be some fireworks to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be stupid.
But come back for that. Take care of yourselves. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
I had deja vu of you being a jackass about me having deja vu. Love you, Evolved.